Do you know how to trace your missing IRS refund? I'm Andrew Bosserman, tax attorney, former IRS agent, and founder of Boss Tax Law. And in this video, I'm going to go through the, fortunately, too common situation of trying to figure out where your missing IRS refund is. So if you're watching this video, chances are you might be in that frustrating situation where your tax refund seems to have vanished into thin air. You've called the IRS, tried to call but been on hold, can't get through anyone. The online website isn't helping, and it's probably been weeks or even months or even years since you filed, and you're starting to wonder if your money somehow got lost. But the good news is you don't need to panic. This actually happens more often than you'd think, and fortunately, the IRS has specific steps you can take to track down your missing refund. So in this video, I'm going to go through a few things you can do, and you'll know exactly what to do if you're missing your refund or if your refund goes missing. So first, let's just talk a little bit about timing. So oftentimes the IRS says to expect your refund within about 3 to 4 weeks if you e-filed, or about 6 to 8 weeks if you mailed a paper return. But those are just estimates, and especially if you file during the height of the filing season, sometimes it can take a little extra time for them to process your return. Also, the IRS can delay your refund for legitimate reasons. Maybe they're reviewing it for accuracy. Maybe you claim certain credits that they need to match up additional information against. Or maybe you have other past due federal debts that the IRS has to offset your refund against. If you didn't receive your refund within those estimated timelines, I'd at least give it a good amount of time. So say at least 6 to 12 weeks, depending, maybe even longer if you paper filed your return. If it's been longer than that, or if you use the special Where's My Refund tool on the IRS website and it doesn't show any information, then you probably want to start acting and going through the steps in this video. So your first step is going to be to check the IRS website. So if you go to irs.gov, there's a Where's My Refund tool. You'll need to put in your social security number, filing status, and expected refund amount. And generally it gives you the status of your refund. You can also call the IRS. They have a refund hotline. The phone number is currently 1-800-829-195. You can talk to an agent and they should be able to tell you what's going on with your refund. Another thing to make sure is that the IRS has your current address. So if you filed your tax return and have since moved, a paper check might be sent to your old address. That's also important. Generally, I recommend, if possible, getting a refund direct deposited. You have to enter your bank account information on the tax return, but normally you receive your refund quicker and don't run the risk of a paper check being lost in the mail or delivered to the wrong address. So if you go through those steps, contact the IRS, use the online tool, and that doesn't help, it's still showing no information or the IRS has no idea, then you want to move on to Form 3911. And this is a form, and it's called Taxpayer Statement Regarding Refund is the title of the form. But essentially, it's an official way of filing a claim with the IRS saying, hey, where's my money? Where's my refund? So you need to fill out the form, and it's pretty basic. You put in your information, refund information, and a little bit explanation of the situation, if it's direct deposited where you normally bank, etc. And you can submit this form by fax or mail. Generally, faxing is quicker. I've faxed these forms before, and the IRS also processes them fairly quickly. For example, I submitted one about last month and it took 2 or 3 weeks to process it. So that's a pretty quick turnaround, all things considered, with the IRS. If you do happen to mail it to the IRS, remember to mail it certified mail with return receipt or use a private carrier with tracking just to prove that you sent the form to the IRS. So after you file Form 3911, the IRS should respond and with a letter telling you what's going on. Sometimes they'll say, hey, we deposit your refund, here's the information. Or sometimes they'll say, oh, it's being held up for certain reasons. But if you're still having issues, or for example, they say, oh, the check was deposited, but the IRS can't always give you super detailed information over the phone. That's where the Bureau of Fiscal Service comes in. So this is something most people don't know. The IRS doesn't actually issue your refund checks. It's a different part of the Treasury called the Bureau of Fiscal Service, and they actually cut your refund checks. What happens is that the IRS processes your return, approves your refund, but then the payment information gets sent to the Bureau of Fiscal Service, and they will then initiate your direct deposit or mail your check. So if you haven't received your refund, or if the IRS says, oh, hey, it was sent, but you still didn't receive a check or didn't receive the money in your account, then you should reach out to the Bureau of Fiscal Service. Their phone number is 1-855-868-0151. I've found them to be pretty helpful. It wasn't too long of a whole time, I think 30 minutes when I called recently. And they were able to give me information about where the check was mailed, what it was dated, when it was deposited, what account it was deposited to. Definitely recommend calling them if you aren't able to get your refund issue resolved with the IRS. So to prevent missing refunds in the future, I already said, oftentimes I recommend direct deposit, but you have to double check your bank account and routing numbers on the return. I've seen errors made by either the taxpayer or their CPA, and then a refund check gets deposited in the wrong account, and that's not a good situation to be in. If you choose to get a paper check in the mail or have to for some reason, make sure your address is updated with the IRS. And also, you can sign up for informed delivery with the USPS. So that is an online service that through the Postal Service that lets you see your incoming mail on each day. So you can see, oh, I'm supposed to receive my refund check today, and you can be on the lookout for it in the mail. So just to summarize, if your refund goes missing, first start with the basics, check online, call the IRS. If that doesn't work, then you can file that form 3911. And if the IRS still can't give you the information you need, then contact the Bureau of Fiscal Service. But I think the most important thing to remember is don't give up just because you haven't received your refund. The IRS processes millions of refunds a year. Some are bound to get lost or have issues with them, but the IRS has processes to resolve these types of issues, and you just need to know how to use them. So thanks so much for watching. If you have a refund or other tax issue, feel free to reach out. And then until then, I will see you in the next video.